name is Patrice Paris. I'm a singer, songwriter, voice coach, and today I want to talk to my fellow musicians out there about the journey and what we kind of do when we make mistakes. So, saddle up. Here we go, my friends. Let me break down what I've experienced from being a coach and also from being on the other end as an artist. One thing I'd say, and you probably can understand and relate to this, mistakes happen. It's so part of the journey. And one thing that I continually tell artists that I work with is that, to me, what I've kind of observed in my journey is that the big difference between an amateur, someone who's starting out, and a professional is a professional knows how to cover their tracks. So what do I mean by that is basically like, I don't know anyone who has not hit a bum note, screwed up on stage, screwed up what maybe they were going to say to the audience. Their timing was off. They transitioned, into a different key, or like all these commonalities that happen with musicians. Like, I don't know anyone who is like had a perfect career where they have not screwed up. It's so unrealistic. So, but what I also have noticed on the other end is a lot of artists starting almost put this pressure on themselves that like they have to reach perfection. And that is just something that is so unobtainable, and I think mentally it will mess with you. I think it plays with people. I think it doesn't allow them to freely play with different things, be it creatively, because they're so worried about things being so perfect that to hear themselves screw up. And this would be more like making a song your own when you're kind of in that journey, or in the writing process, right? Or in the development of a new song, an original song. It's like kind of hearing yourself go off isn't pleasant, right? We don't want that. But at the end of the day too, when you're creating and you're trying different things, it's gonna go off, right? Maybe trying some new dance moves for on stage. It's like, all right, well, I don't like what that happened, but you'll never know what really works unless you try a variety of different things and see what actually fits. So that is something that I think is really, really important mentally, that we start to wrap our heads around and start to embrace and understand that there's going to be times that we are not going to have the greatest, maybe show, maybe the most ideal for us. I would say the level of what is acceptable or to an audience and what's acceptable to us as you continue to do it changes. Meaning kind of like, sometimes what's a bad performance for us is like the audience doesn't always really notice, right? And that's more so, I feel like, as you've been doing it, we hold ourselves to a certain standard, and that's an interesting thing to be like, oh, well, yeah, maybe that wasn't my 100%, but the audience, for them, I was like, that was amazing. So we want to keep those kinds of things in mind. And it's really interesting because recently I had taken on being the head coach of my son's baseball team for maybe a whole nother day. But the biggest thing is that I was trying to, because I don't know much about baseball, right? But I was tackling this, and I said, I'm going to take it on because they needed people. And like, one thing I know from being an artist, from being a coach, is that if I don't have the answers, I will find those who do. So that's a little gem on the side note with, I guess, in the sense of mistakes or understanding, it's like finding out answers. So that said, I was kind of like, well, what is something that I can partake on them? And that's hopefully giving them some mental gems that I noticed just from being a coach that is important to develop in any area. And one thing I kind of coined with them is, hey, you know what, guys? One mistake during the game does not have to define the game. One game does not define the season, and one season doesn't define your career. And I was thinking of that to bring to the table to them, to my fellow players, and I thought about that in relation to musicians. It's the same kind of thing, right? You screw up one note in a song, that's not going to define your whole show, right? One bad show is not going to define your whole career. So keeping that in mind, when something happens, it's like, okay, great. That was the most optimum. Was there something that I could do to change it for the future? So then this way, I am bringing my best for each performance, for each time that I'm going to record, or for when I'm writing, right? So there's an element of stepping into things and preparing and practicing, and that would be what I would say is going to lead to the most success and to have fewer and fewer mistakes. So we prepare for that. We practice for our songs, be it when we're singing a song or for the whole show or for songwriting, whatever it may be. But we also give ourselves the beauty and grace of understanding that mistakes happen and not caving if something does, right? If something happens, like, great. A lot of times too, I'll say, like, when people are performing, they hit a bum note or something goes slightly off, like, most audiences don't realize unless you kind of tell them by this right here, right? And so they're just going to be in the moment. They're just there to experience. So I think if you sit in that moment and because sometimes we'll hear if we go off or something happens or we screw up lyrics, and if we kind of let our mind stay with that, it's going to dictate the rest of the performance, the rest of the show, the rest of the song there. So I'd say, yes, okay, great, that happened. Or, I'm screwing up the lyrics. Start to think about creative things. What could you do if something goes off the rails, right? I remember performing like No One Alicia Keys, and I was like, oh my God, I completely blanked on the words, but like I could see the audience singing. So I was like, this is a great time to throw out the mic, right? And so I had to think quick on my feet to what I would do. And I did that, and then once I kind of found it back in, I was like, okay, coming back in on it. So that's the kind of stuff I would say to you that you can do and prepare in order to lead yourself to more successful things. And keep it in mind, just going back to the baseball, I just watched the World Series, and Aaron Judge, like, top of the game there, my friends, whether you're liking that team or not. He's at the top of his game, right? Made some mistakes, didn't hit so much, right? It's like, okay, great. That's not going to define his career. That's not going to define his legacy. So that's what I pass on to you all. When it comes to mistakes, great. Embrace it's going to happen. Learn from them, and practice and preparation leads to less of them. So that's what we can do there. If this helped you, I hope it does. It does. Please drop a comment. Feel free to hit that button over there, like, subscribe. That always helps me know that I'm on the path to helping you. So, thanks again for watching, and here's to your success.